Cheers!
Hey.
Canadian wine lovers,
Cheers.
Carl's Wine Club members, Mira, Clos du Soleil members and followers, all of Canadian wine lovers across the country, welcome! It's 5 o'clock here, BC, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and wherever you are across Canada, we say welcome and happy Wine Wednesday because we're going to talk Canadian wines, we're going to talk Clos du Soleil, we're going to talk the Similkameen Valley, and much, much more. So it's going to be an interesting show tonight. We are thrilled. We're going to have Michael Clark, winemaker and general manager at Clos du Soleil, with us in a few minute time. So, yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be a rocking show. Mira, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty awesome. Pretty excited to taste some wine. Now, you got like 4 next to me here that I'm blind tasting with you, aren't I?
Well, you know what? I mean, like, if I have 4, you have 4 as well, right? So I never discriminate. We get the same stuff. We're tasting Clos du Soleil again tonight. So we've been working on these bottles for quite some time right now. We have a really good start to our promotion to Carl's Wine Club feature with Clos du Soleil this week. Lots of members across the country have already ordered their pack, but we're gonna give you answers to your question if you have. Et bonsoir à notre ami Pierre Nollet, ici de la belle région de Québec. Mon Pierrot, un beau bonsoir à toi, toute ta gang, à tout le monde de la belle province, à tous les amateurs de vin francophones du pays. On vous souhaite un beau bonsoir. Ce soir, on parle de Clos du Soleil, un petit producteur de la vallée de la Similkameen, environ 1 heure en dehors de la vallée de l'Okanagan dans le sud, qui font des vins de style bordelais exemplaire, des petits producteurs, un petit producteur qui focus sur le Cabernet Sauvignon, le Cabernet Franc, le Malbec, le petit verre d'eau, puis aussi la Syrah et le Chardonnay. Donc, un très beau terroir de la Similkameen. On va parler de ça. On reçoit Michael, le directeur général, et le winemaker qui va se joindre à nous dans quelques minutes. Donc, on dit un beau bonjour à tout le monde. On va flipper en anglais encore, puis on va bien en français plus tard. Si vous avez des questions à propos du Clos du Soleil, un vignoble qui a commencé il y a de ça 18 ans. Donc, un beau vignoble avec de l'expérience, avec des vignes matures qui font des vins incroyables. 2,93 points, 2,91 plus, 1,92. Les scores sont beaux, les vins sont bons, les vins ont une finesse et une complexité fantastique. Donc, on va parler de ça un petit peu plus tard. Here you go. Where's my speech in French, Mira? What do you think?
It's great. It's always a good day when you speak in French. I love it.
Well, you know, and it's something really unique and really cool with Clos du Soleil. It's on every single bottle of the Clos du Soleil. You got the French, you got the English, but you also got the French. You also got the French description and the French story and all of in both language. So you know what? There's not a whole lot of wineries around here across the country who do that. So that's part of my question to Michael. We'll talk about it, the why, both French. I know for a fact that Clos du Soleil is a French name. It's from the little close environment with the sun. Le Clos in France also refer often to one of like a really close environment where you can't restrain and you can keep all of your belonging or your stuff around in the same space. So yeah, we're going to talk about it as well. So here, the listener and the members are tuning in more and more across the platform. A beautiful good evening to everyone on Instagram who are following us. So leave a comment in the chat box. If you like Clos du Soleil, if you're a fan of Clos du Soleil, if you have tasted their wine before, or what is your favorite Clos du Soleil wine? Because I kind of feel like I have a soft spot for a couple wines in that lineup. So we'll chat about it a little later.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
So we bring our special guest on?
I think we should. should.
So this is Michael Clark, and he's a winemaker and co-owner at Clos du Soleil. Hey, Mike. Great to meet
Hi,
you.
I'm really happy to be with you this evening.
Yeah,
Mr. Clark, good evening. So cheers to you first and foremost.
Well, thank you.
So it's great to have you on. Listen, Michael, let me start. Like, how can I start? I mean, I've been following the Canadian wine scenes for a couple decades now, and I mean, the Clos du Soleil, to my like souvenir or whatever, I would say 15 years in, I keep remember that French name popping up here and there when we're talking about the BC wine industry and some of their very flagship wines. So where are you located? Because we have many listeners right now who are listening from Ontario or eastern part of the country. So can you talk a little bit more about where you guys at and how the Clos du Soleil has started in 2006?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're located in the Similkameen Valley, just outside of the town of Caramios. So for listeners who are familiar with the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, which is the most well-known wine-producing region, the Similkameen is just a little bit to the west of the Okanagan. So for people who have actually visited the area, we're around a 20-minute drive from Penticton or around a 20-minute drive from Soyuz. While we're very close to the Okanagan Valley, there are actually a lot of differences distinguishing the Similkameen Valley from the Okanagan Valley. And myself, as well as all of the other wine growers in the Similkameen, are really proud of what makes our valley unique from the Okanagan, but also unique from every other wine growing area around the world, really. And I can tell you, and what I hope I can convince everybody of this evening, is that my job is, if you boil it down to what it's really about, it's about translating those unique characters into the wine. That if I've done that, then I've succeeded. Just to mention a few things about what makes the valley unique. First of all, it's a very narrow valley with really high steep mountains on either side. And so that has several different effects on the growing conditions, but one that might leap to mind is it almost creates a wind tunnel. You have these very high winds that move in typically from the northwest direction and move these masses of cold air into the valley in what are otherwise super hot summer temperatures in a desert-like environment. So you have that really high wind in this wind tunnel. You have very, very stony soils, mineral-rich soils, more rock content, as well as more organic matter than a lot of areas in the South Okanagan, which are, depending on where you're talking about, typically quite sandy. And I, as a winemaker, would argue that those kind of soils that we have in the Similkameen really lend themselves to terroir expression. They have unique characters that it's possible to actually display in the final wine. And then finally, I'm going to claim as one of the characteristics of the valley that we're known as the organic farming capital of Canada. So we have the highest density of organic farms anywhere in the country. That's not just vineyards. That also includes organic orchards, organic ground crops, and so on. And at Clos du Soleil, all of our vineyards are certified organic. And to me, that's a really important tool to be able to translate that unique terroir into the wine. I think being organic is one of the aspects that allows me to do that.
Michael, it's such a great, I would say, a 1-minute recap of one of the most special wine growing region in the country, to my opinion. I mean, every time we go there, first and foremost, the views are breathtaking. It's like, it's incredible how the scenery is beautiful and the mountains are predominant. But terroir is a terminology that everyone has a little bit of his own definition of terroir, right? We talk with people and it's about this is the soil, the sun, and a little bit of winemaking. But more and more, we're talking about one element that you've mentioned, and it's part of the terroir. It's the wind. the way that the wind beat these grapes, I mean, it's part of how the grapes are growing, and it brings such a characteristic, and the rugged style of wine, a little bit, and the minerality is absolutely stunning. I think I nailed it in some of my tasting notes. I'm talking about minerality in 3 or 4 of these wines in my tasting notes, where it's very predominant, and also that rugged terroir, right? It's these wines are soft in texture yet, absolutely, but you feel that little rugged tannin where it's part of the personality of the wines. Is it just me, or?
I completely agree with you on everything that you just said. I love your tasting notes for one thing, but certainly as far as minerality goes, I and the other winemakers in the valley really see that as one of the distinguishing sensory characteristics in wines from the Similkameen. And I always almost regret saying it, because in some ways that can be an overused, trendy term in wine tasting terminology. But I really think that the Similkameen Valley can legitimately claim across all varieties that are grown with care in the valley this this stony mineral-like character that comes through in the wines. Part of that, there are various things that contribute to minerality, but high fresh levels of acidity is
Mhm.
one of the things I would argue that you need to have that mineral-like expression. And we have that in spades in the Similkameen, and the wind that you were talking about is one of the reasons that we are able to achieve that. It's because you have, I love that photo. It's because you have these temperatures that are very hot, say mid 30 degrees, and then halfway through the afternoon, these winds will pick up, move that cold air in, and the cold air is what helps preserve the acidity in the grapes, and thus preserve the acidity in the final wine.
And I mean, we're talking about the diurnal temperature in the Okanagan. It's like when we compare our wine in BC versus the wine in California, and even now Washington State, that's something that in 15, 20 years from now, people are already starting to envy what we have here. And it's all about that natural acidity. And if the Similkameen, more than any other region in the country, has that diurnal shift, that diurnal difference between the day and the night. I mean, in the hot summer, in the peak of the summer, how many degrees difference then can you guys have between the peak of the day and the low of the night?
Oh yeah, huge. Off the top of my head, 20 degrees, something like that. So it's a
Yeah,
huge,
I mean, it's crazy.
huge
It's
change.
crazy to think like how like the hottest part of the country versus like a very cold night, typical desert environment. But
Exactly.
yeah, that minerality definitely stands out on the full lineup of wine. And what leads me to the old world, and I know this is another terminology that people will use here and there, but I mean, you guys make very minimal intervention. The way you make the wine, it's very well minimal intervention. It's biology. It's organic. I mean, there's the French in the name. Okay, definitely. There's the French in the name of but also in the style of wine. In the sense that when I taste the Syrah, you purposefully co-ferment with Viognier, with it, and you guys use the Bordeaux varietal at all, so a lot. So what linked you to the French style of winemaking on your side?
As you were describing that, I feel like we should be hiring you for our marketing, because you explain things exactly the way I try to. So we think alike.
With the French accent.
Yeah, even better, even better. Yeah, so we have that French name, and you got it exactly right, that it is signal to our customers. Not that we are trying to make wine that tastes like French wine in any way. I want to make wine that tastes like the Similkameen Valley, that's unique and expresses its sense of place. However, I grew up drinking French wine, and it has influenced my whole philosophy about wine. My partner's in the winery, the same thing. And so the way I like to explain it is that we borrow a French aesthetic. I borrow a philosophy of what we mean by the term quality in wine from French wine. And then I want to apply that aesthetic within the context of making wine in the Similkameen Valley. And so some of our branding decisions, including our name, of course, are just tied to that philosophy, which is actually really central. It's very important to what we do. And I think you see it in the wines.
And so let's get back when you guys planted or started the winery. Did you base the portfolio of what you will make based on the terroir, based on the Similkameen potential, or it was more, let's plant Bordeaux varietal here, let's do French style wine in here because we believe that's what's gonna be successful around here?
Yeah, I can tell you as a winemaker, if you don't have the grape varieties suited to the growing conditions, then you end up in trouble, either sooner or later. But at some point, you end up in trouble.
And like, I mean, like what's happening this year and what happened last year, it's a harsh reality of if you have planted the wrong thing in the wrong spot, it comes back and bite you in the ass pretty bad.
Absolutely. So in terms of the original question about focusing not solely, but primarily on Bordeaux varieties, I'll say a couple of things. One is that we always, right from the get-go, and when I say get-go, we started in 2006. Right from day one, we wanted to be specialists, and we still see ourselves as specialists today. We have several tiers of wine, so we have a number of different products at different price points, but really the styles of wines we work with and the types of blends we produce are fairly narrow, and it's because we want to do a couple things really well rather than try to be everything to everyone. So that focus was there from the start, and then we believed that the varieties, the Bordeaux varieties, would thrive in the Similkameen, and not just ripen appropriately, but be the proper tool for expressing terroir, what I've been talking about throughout. And now, so that was the idea, but I can tell you, because we've planted various new vineyards over time and with different conditions, you never really know. You never know till you actually do it and see. And we were lucky we got it right, because I think the results are in the bottle today. But it could have gone wrong too. And you don't ever get everything right, but we got the big things right, and that's what's important.
I mean, if you have to say, with your experience now in the Similkameen, which grape varietal thrived the most or express himself at the highest level from the Similkameen? Is there one who has very unique? Because I have my idea personally. I think that Syrah and Malbec has a very, very, very distinctive delivery from the Similkameen. But I'm interested in your perspective.
Can I give a few?
Yes, please, absolutely.
So on the white side, first of all, I will say that one of the undervalued varieties in the Similkameen, not undervalued at Clos du Soleil, but undervalued perhaps more broadly, is Sauvignon Blanc. I think Sauvignon Blanc can produce this amazing mineral-driven expression that is unique from Sauvignon Blanc anywhere else in the world, which, like I said, is what your dream is as a winemaker. You want to make something unique. And while we certainly promote it heavily at Clos du Soleil, I think that there's still a lot more recognition in the market for that variety from the Similkameen Valley that would be due to it. As far as reds go, Syrah definitely jumps out at me. I completely agree with you. I think Syrah can be absolutely beautiful from our valley. And again, unique. You get beautiful, ripe, juicy berry fruit character, but you also get the spicy complexity that Syrah is often known for. You get this sort of gravelly type of texture on the palate. And you get this kind of herbal sagebrush character too that is a typical part of our terroir. So when you put all those things together, it's just it's intellectually interesting, but it's also just plain delicious. So I love Syrah. Cab Franc, I would point out too. I think you can get fantastic expressions of Cab Franc. And then the kind of I'll say, more controversial one I'm going to put out there is Cabernet Sauvignon. When I say controversial, it's because it's typically tough to grow really high quality Cabernet Sauvignon in British Columbia. That kind of, you can ripen it, but to be able to achieve delicacy and finesse in Cabernet Sauvignon in BC is challenging. In the right years, in just the right spots of the Similkameen, and not everywhere, but certain spots, you can achieve a really unique expression of Cabernet Sauvignon that can have interesting floral notes that you don't always see with that variety. Sometimes cinnamon and sort of spicy notes that, again, you don't always see. And as I mentioned before, getting the tannin structure right is the really hard part. And if you get everything right, you can actually do it in the Similkameen. So I love that. I love the challenge of it.
I like and you mentioned in the Cabernet Sauvignon, there's definitely that violet or that potpourri almost, like, yeah, that floral component. I totally agree. And let's get back to the Fumé or the Sauvignon Blanc. I have to thank you to putting in there a judicious amount of lightly oak aspect to it, which to me bring that roundness and that little, like that softness of a very popping and lip smacking type of grape varietals. I really love what you've done. And the price point, I have to mention that, like, I love the way you go with the tiers from the flagship signature, but the winemaker series. And these two little guys, and I shouldn't say little guys because they're not little at all, but the price point of these two, to me, pound for pound, it's pretty hard to beat. I mean, at $30, that's Celestial. I've been sipping on it for I would say over 10 days now. I try it a little bit every day, and this wine is just keep getting better. I usually experience that with the flagship wine. I'm not surprised that the signature keeps evolving, but this one,
I
the price
see
one,
CEL on my glass. Does that mean that's what's in this one, Carl?
absolutely. The one who says X, it's not your X. It's the expression. It's the expression of that. And the one with nothing, it's the signature. So I got you the three tiers of the red here, Mira. So you can retaste the different price point. So I'm interested, Michael. I'm going completely off script here, but I think Mira would say I don't know anything else than going off script anyway.
I didn't know there was a script. No one told me there was a script.
No one sent me one either.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, because I never respect it. You bring, how many cases a year do you produce in, I mean, now let's say all the way up to 2022. Usually a regular year for Clos du Soleil. What's the production?
Around 8,000 cases, approximately.
8,000 cases.
That makes us a small boutique winery.
Yeah, no, definitely. So my question is, because when I look at the Celestial versus the signature, you focus on a very limited amount of grape varietals, and you make them differently from the different tiers. So how do you select the barrel, the fruit? Is it pre-selected in the vineyard? Is it more in the winemaking facility when the wines are in barrel by tasting and elimination? How do you do your process?
Yeah, so and you're talking about the assemblage of the red blends.
You got that right. You got that right.
Yeah, so it's really sensory. In short, we harvest each variety from each vineyard block separately.
Okay.
For reds, we're fermenting them in concrete tanks, which we imported from France. They spend about 3 weeks typically in concrete. Then they're pressed in a traditional basket press. And then the wine goes to, in most cases, 100% French oak barrels and spends around 1.5 years there. And during that 1.5 years, I'm periodically tasting all of those barrels, which sounds like fun, but actually when you have a lot of barrels of young red wine, it's less fun than it sounds like. Exactly. And as I'm tasting each of them, I'm tasting them more or less blind, meaning I'm not focusing on the variety or where they came from. I'm focusing on the sensory characteristics, how they are smelling and tasting and what the wine structure is like. And I'm identifying barrels that should go into the Celestial blend that you were just tasting,
Yep.
or our flagship signature, or any of the other red blends that we produce. For example, the Expression or Expression that we are talking about tonight as well. And so if you ask me then, well, how are you making that decision? It's for a certain profile. In my head, I'm thinking that every wine is maybe like a painting. And that painting needs to tell a story about the place where the wine comes from, and it needs to tell a story about the particular year. And so that's in the back of my head. And then within that context, Celestial is a wine that is designed to be more fruit forward, soft, lush, approachable in youth. It can age, certainly, but it doesn't have to. And have that kind of juicy, delicious factor. So knowing that I'm selecting barrels for that blind, not thinking about the varieties, but thinking about those characteristics, it might not surprise you then that it's majority Merlot. Why? Because Merlot has a lot of those characteristics that I'm talking about, that softer structure, that juiciness, that fruit forward character, as a generalization. And so that naturally lends to Celestial often being Merlot dominant, but there's no rule saying that. It's purely how they're tasting and smelling each year.
And sorry about that. And well, the way I could describe it, more modern and more and more approachable for the Celestial. And when I taste them, I have both side by side here, and it's still, after 10 days, they're still revealed their own story and exactly how they were when I opened them, in the sense that the signature is more depth. There's so much complexity, but there's also, you can feel it like from the mid palate all the way to the end, that structure and that sense of I'm unbreakable and it's going to take time. And then there's so much to offer. And the Celestial is just a playful wine, absolutely fun and round and joyful. I mean, and and basically for the two vintage that I have from the 2021 versus the 2020, there's almost the same blend. I mean, it's almost a third, like there's a similarity between the l'assemblage. So it's very interesting. And when you get to the winemaker series, now this is where the true taste of the Similkameen is happening.
Yeah, so we have three types of labels at Clos du Soleil. We have the black label wines like Celestial that you were talking about, or the Fumé Blanc that we spoke about earlier. Those are really designed to out-deliver for the price point. They're more approachable wines, but they're still cellarable. They have lots of complexity. They really show their terroir. So we're really trying to deliver a lot of value to our customers. Then we have our white label wines like Signature that you were talking about, which are our flagships. Those we pour our heart and soul into, and they're really meant to tell that story about what Clos du Soleil and what the Similkameen can be. And then, as you just mentioned, we have our winemaker series. So those are with the gold labels. The winemaker series is anything that kind of falls out of that core portfolio. The core portfolio is the focus on Bordeaux blends that we've been talking about. So for red, blends of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and for reds, blends of Merlot, Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Malbec, Petit Verdot. Other things that fall outside of the core portfolio could be something like our Syrah, for example. We produce it every year, but it's kind of an exception to that Bordeaux focus. We will do sometimes small lot experimental wines for our wine club. So, for example, I was really pleased that we had a small amount of Expression available to share with Carl's Wine Club customers. That's a wine that we don't make every year, and when we do, we make it in just small quantities for our club members. It's a Malbec dominant blend, and it's a way of showing a different side of Clos du Soleil, because our normal Bordeaux blends are not Malbec dominant. This allows me to highlight the unique characters of Malbec, like you were talking about. And we have other examples. We, for example, historically have produced, well, one time historically, a wine called Béton, as you would know.
Béton, okay. Concrete.
So this is a wine that's only aged in concrete, never goes to oak at all. And so I'm sharing this news for the first time ever with you and your club members, because we haven't told anybody else, but the second ever vintage of Béton will be coming out later this year. So I'm excited about that. So that's another example of one of the winemaker series wines, one of these kind of smaller special wines.
Can you tell me more? Which varietals are you using for the second edition of Béton?
Cab Franc and Cab Sauv blend.
That is so intriguing.
I look forward to sharing it with you.
I can't wait. I can't wait. This is very incredible. I want to get back to Expression, because 2020 was a fantastic vintage. I mean, everything you look like a long growing season where Malbec can shine. There's like the cold night where it can express. To me, I call it like the mountain style of the Malbec, like the high altitude of the Argentinian, like the top Argentinian version of Malbec. And when I tasted that, I give that one a 93 points. And there's a very small amount of wine that I taste over the year, Michael, that I give 93 points or better. And this one went like right into my rock star category. I mean, there's like and we're talking about the floral for the Cabernet Sauvignon earlier. That Malbec has that beautiful floral component, that dusty minerality, and there's that graphite was bring by the Cabernet Sauvignon, who bring length and structure. I mean, this one is absolutely unique. 114 cases made. I mean, sharing that with our member, thank you, Michael. That's for us. That was a real catch, and I often save the top wine of I call it my rockstar wine of the feature for the day after the live. So tomorrow I'm going all in on social media about the Expression. It's I saved it since the beginning of the week because I think this wine is special. It tells so much about the Similkameen. I had a really soft spot for that wine.
Oh, I'm glad that you like it. And I was very pleased too that for what's a very small lot wine, that we were able to share it with your club members and give them something that we consider special. Just to tell you a little bit about where it comes from. So most of it, as you mentioned, is Malbec. And that Malbec comes from one of our own vineyards, certified organic, like all of our vineyards. We have 4 vineyards at Clos du Soleil, and 3 out of 4 of them are on what's known as the upper bench of the valley. So for people who have ever come and visited our winery and tasting room, that's in our oldest vineyard, what we call our estate vineyard, and it's right up against the mountainside. But we actually have 2 other vineyards, one to the immediate east, one to the immediate west, also right up at the mountainside, super rocky soils, very steep vineyard sites, and one of those is called La Côte. So we have in the middle our oldest one we call the estate. To the west we have one called Les Collines, and to the east we have one called La Côte. The very top block of La Côte, right up against this stony mountainside, is where the Malbec is planted. So all the Malbec for Expression comes from that site, and we grow it trying to express that site through the grapes and through the wine.
Oh, and do you harvest definitely, like obviously you harvest the Malbec and the Cabs at a different moment at maximal ripeness. And in 2000, I believe, like the harvest, you guys, like it probably came out the vine pretty late in the season.
Yeah, so as you said before, 2020 was a fantastic vintage, really everywhere in BC, and definitely in the Similkameen Valley. And the Malbec is almost always one of the last things to harvest for us. So In fact, I think I have the date here. We harvested the Malbec on the 27th of October, so very late October in 2020.
There you go, almost in November. You're almost into November then. So yeah, and that's why I think like 2020 had such a late season, and it's so like really brought the Malbec to that phenolic brightness. That that's why the depth and the length of that wine is just so unique and so special.
I'm glad you like it.
I sure do. I sure do. Hey, Michael, I know you're busy. You have a commitment tonight. I don't want to keep you too long here, but I'm sure that Mira might have maybe a question or two for you.
Well, we were talking at the beginning in French. Of course, Carl grew up in northern Quebec, so he speaks French, and we have quite a few members out in Quebec. You mentioned, Carl, at the beginning that I think this is the only winery we've ever seen that has French and English on the back. Was there any specific thinking to that, or did you just think that's just the right thing to do? Let's just do that. I mean, was there any kind of story behind that?
We've done that right from the very start, the initial days of the winery. Part of it is a nod to the fact that two languages are one of the things that makes Canada great. Importantly, too, it's a nod to what we were talking about before, the fact that our name is French, and we draw heavily on an aesthetic or a philosophy based upon French wine. So there's that aspect as well. From myself, I did some of my training in France and in French-speaking Switzerland, training as a winemaker, that is. But even more than that, it's the fact that I grew up in a family where wine was important, and we were often drinking French wine. And so from the time that I was relatively young up until today, I still have a cellar full of French wine. And it does impact training one's palate as a winemaker is very important. And so the kind of things that you are drinking yourself ultimately impacts the kind of wines you're making.
Oh, that's a really
Michael, I can't drag that conversation now. That if you open the international, I worked with international collectible for 20 years. I used to build to fill cellar with collectibles from all over France. So we can dig deep into that conversation. But I want to know, on a personal level, do you have a soft spot more for the south of France, for Bordeaux? Where's your stylistic connection with France?
Well, I mean, part of the reason I like wine at all is the infinite variety. And so I would never want to just drink wine from one variety or from one region or even from one country. I love the fact that every year wine is different, and that not before you get into all the different countries around the world producing wine. So that goes for France as well. I love so many different wine styles that are made within France. I do have a soft spot for the Northern Rhone, I have to admit.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
But I love everything, really.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I had one of my first real love for wine came from the more south of the Rhone Valley, and the Châteauneuf-du-Pape was one of my, but more like, I would say the Northern Rhone has a much more sophisticated type of approach. So yes, I truly enjoy these Syrah as well from the Northern Rhone. I
was just going to say, I lived in Switzerland for close to a decade in Geneva. And at the time, I was only a few hours drive away from the Northern Rhone. So I was very, very spoiled. Of course, now I feel very lucky to be living in interior British Columbia with just amazing winemaking opportunities and amazing scenery. But I also miss living on the French border as well.
No doubt about that. I had the chance to have some great conversation with Michel Chapoutier once, and these are kind of experience that to kind of not forget. Like these are absolutely incredible experience. But yeah, no, the Rhone Valley is my soft spot as well. So I'm glad that one of our members who are listening tonight, Mike, is the average wine enthusiast. He do some pretty cool stuff on YouTube as well. But Mike is drinking a Pic Saint Loup tonight. So some pretty cool stuff from that region of France. So Michael, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to connect. Thanks for bringing such amazing wines to our wine club across the country. And cheers to your winemaking skills and your French approach to the Similkameen. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, thank you. It's been a real pleasure, and I appreciate you highlighting, showcasing our wines in your club to your club members. So thank you very much. And yes, a real pleasure.
Thank you very much, Michael.
I think the next time we're in the Similkameen, we'll have to give you a call and see if you're at the winery and drop by.
You must. Absolutely.
That would be fun. Can't wait to taste that.
I'll make sure to carry a bottle of French wine in the bag as well, so we can do some side by side.
That would be fun.
It's a deal.
Awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
Cheers, Michael. Great to meet you. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thanks again.
So much fun, hey?
Again, I think I've said that. I say that almost every time, but now I feel like if I'm flying. Like, I mean, I'm just so connected with these wines right now. Wow. I love it.
Really
I love
cool.
it.
Really cool. It got me back to thinking, you know, we always had this dream, you and me, Carl, to go to France and go to the little chateau and blind taste some of these French people with some Canadian wine, some Similkameen wine, and just see what their reaction is, just see what they think, you know. It'd be so fun.
Yeah, let's go to the Rhone Valley with some Similkameen Syrah, and let's blind taste these French winemaker with Similkameen Syrah. It would be pretty fun to hear them swear in French. Calice, oh putain de merde, c'est bon ça. Oh, c'est bon ça.
It's so funny because I don't think they say the same swears in
No. It's
yeah?
not calice or that. It's putain de merde.
Yes, Mike, we should plan a trip. We should. I mean, anything's possible if you give yourself enough planning time, right? It might take a year or two, but we should pick a date or set of dates and say Carl's Wine Club invading France, you know? We'll make a little caravan of Carl's Wine Club.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that? Carl's Wine Club fanatic or turning international. Oh my God. We never come back.
Well, I mean, the point of going international is to spread the word about Canada. And then the funny thing is, if we do this in a year or two, especially the BC wines, we'll be saying, yes, it's really good and all this. Yeah, come to Hester Creek first to the Pan Canadian. You're right. Most of the people on tonight are coming. So that is awesome. But yeah, I mean, you know, you go to the south of France or whatever, and we taste them on these wines. We'll show them, right, Mike? We'll show them, like, they'll be like, wow, I didn't know Canada can do such quality. And we'll be like, yeah, haha, but it's sold out because it's such small production, right? But I mean, I think that's part of what's so remarkable about Canadian wine. We have some of the smallest production in the world, right? It's like a fraction of a % of the world's wine. And yet we're on par and winning awards with some of these producers that are making the huge amounts of wine, right?
Huge amount, and for centuries.
I know.
I mean, with that, guys, I mean, we're so far ahead to so many countries with if you put at the same stage of the evolution of their industry. We are so far ahead of so many of them. What we make, and I've been like, if I'm a broken record, I've seen it all the time. We are, first and foremost, this is the golden age of the Canadian wine industry right now. We have never produced as much and as many quality world-class wine as we make right now. And what I have in front of me, it's absolutely fucking world-class. It's incredible, the quality of these wines in front of me. I have 4 But 3 Clos du Soleil and 1 Vineland Estate wine. Mira, you absolutely nailed it with the Vineland. I do have a Chardonnay.
Musqué, or what is it?
I did the note on the Clone 76 Chardonnay, the boutique Chardonnay last night. Wink, wink. I gave it a 91 points. You know how much I like the 20 Mile Bench.
Yeah. I mean, that's very special. Yeah.
Especially that single clone, single varietal. But the richness of that Chardonnay Musqué, like you look just on the legs. You look at the legs of that wine. I'm used to drink Musqué. To me, it's a little bit more directional, floral, bright. This one has a crazy texture, and I know that Brian makes that wine stainless steel all the way through. But I don't know if it's the 2021 vintage or he harvested probably at the higher brick. I suspect. But wow, there's a richness in that Sauv Musqué. I can't freaking believe it. Really, really good. So I'm going to dig deeper onto these tasting notes tomorrow. But while we're talking about Vineland and Brian Schmid, look at that. I got a bottle of that. I didn't realize the vintage. It's 2016 Elevation Cabernet. I popped that open without paying attention of the vintage, and I'm tasting that, and I'm like, you know, when I start doing these moves, and like I'm like, I couldn't believe it was in my mouth. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that cannot be. Like, there's something unique and like that was so good in that wine, and I realized that's the 2016 Elevation. This wine is priming right now. It is absolutely spectacular. So just a little hint for next week. I'm not saying more, but coming up next week, there's a very, very small quantity of that wine available. And this is pretty cool. This is fucking good. So, yeah.
I should mention something for the Okanagan people. We have started kind of collecting wines for people around this area in the Okanagan. So just a few people that live nearby that only want 3 bottles or a few bottles of something. Sometimes we can add that to the pack. Just mentioning it because it's happened a few times.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. We bring them to our house, and at some point when we meet with these people, well, we just deliver everything at the same time, right? So
it's just a friendly thing. Like, it's as if you sent it to your friend's house and we hold it for you until we can drop it off.
Until there's a full box ready to be shipped, and well, we call it a day. So yeah, another thing. So let's should we talk about the Pan Canadian?
Yes, this is very exciting, you guys. So we've had about 13, 14 people register so far, maybe 15.
Yeah, but we barely talk about it. I mean, we just sent the link. There's no
we sent the link a few days ago, and we only sent it to Carl's Wine Club VIPs, and we said, here's the link. It's just a quick little link with the basic details for you to know what's going on June 15th, which is basically Carl's Wine Club members descending on the Okanagan, tasting Canadian wines from coast to coast. Not just with Carl and I, but with, 8 winemakers?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to piss off Sarah pretty bad at Esther Creek, because the thing is, like, again, this morning, I got an email from Keith Dyer. Keith is the winemaker at Clausen Chase in Prince Edward County. Keith was part of the Pan Canadian 1.0, the original one in Niagara. No surprise, he drove 3 hours and was part of our panel. Now, he emailed me this morning saying, hey, I'm coming. I'm flying to BC. I want to be part of the 2.0. Huh. Okay. Wow.
Awesome.
So Marcel, to Lou Puglisi, the owner at Bellaterra, I was expecting Marcel to come on his own, right? Come across the country. No, Lou just came back from Florida, and he told Marcel, fuck that, I'm coming too. So Lou just confirmed that he's flying with Marcel, representing Bellaterra and Niagara on the Lake for the 2.0 at Esther Creek. So now I know for a fact that our friend, Mr. Cabernet Franc himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Schmidt, winemaker at Vineland Estate, is going to come and join us as well for the Pan Canadian 2.0 here in the Okanagan. So this is 4 people from Ontario. Oh, and Ilya Sanchuk and his wife, Nadia, owner of the fantastic Leaning Post Winery in the Lincoln Lakeshore appellation, are going to be with us. So, Lincoln Lakeshore, 20 Mile Bench, or Vineland, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Prince Edward County, all are going to be represented in person here in the south of the Okanagan on June 15. So, for people who are thinking about that, just picture that in your head. All of these people from Ontario were flying cross country to showcase their wine, sitting at the front table as a panelist, in between Richard De Silva, John Skinner, Rob Amersley from Black Market, Richard from De Silva Vineyard and Winery, John Skinner from Painted Rock, owner of Painted Rock, Jeff Undermark from Mount Bushry. So far that's what we have confirmed. A pretty decent freaking lineup of people, I'm telling you.
And Brian said he's not sharing a room with Marcel. No way. Don't worry, Brian. So we have booked off Mythology Vineyard. They are letting us take over their entire Vineyard Inn, which has, I believe, 5 or 6 kind of bedroom and bathroom suites.
Brian, I will never do that to you. I will never do that to you. I promise.
It's going to be epic. So Marcel's kid. No, Marcel. I swear there's enough bedrooms for both of you. If we need to, there are other Airbnbs nearby. We will figure this out.
Yeah. So
or you guys can go camping. I mean, we can set up a really cool glamping situation.
Also, we have I have sent an email to Thomas Batchelder, waiting for Thomas to maybe we're gonna have to add an extra Pinot Noir into that. So yeah. Anyway, so the lineup is incredible.
So the only stressor right now is that we are in the barrel room at Hester Creek for this. They are gonna move, I don't know how many hundreds of barrels for us to be in there. It's pretty epic. So thank you to them. And we were talking to staff there who were saying, I don't know how we can fit like 12 people on a panel at the front of the barrel room, but we're going to figure it out, guys. We're going to figure it out. Might have to be, instead of having all your glasses in front of you like this, they're going to be like lined up like this. You'll have to kind of like reach over to grab one.
But
that's the other thing. We got
keep in mind, to me, the stories are going to come out of these conversations in front of all of these 90 people tasting wines from 12 wineries across the country, and will experience the knowledge, the experience, the background of all of these people right in front of them. So that's going to be pretty freaking unique and special. So, and yeah.
And it couldn't come at a better time, because the BC wine industry right now, like, we need to create this collaboration cross country. BC's going to be short on grapes for a few years. There's going to, there's some challenges with the weather here. The AGLC has been a real pain in the butt lately. So it's just a great
Mira, you're way too freaking politically correct. You talk way too politely. Jesus Christ. But anyway, yeah, so this is going to be putting the cross country, the Pan-Canadian collaboration center stage, and right before the season kicks off here in BC. So yeah, a really cool thing. So if you're looking to book your ticket, we already had a bunch of people from out of town who booked their ticket, but if you're looking to book, if you are local in the Okanagan, Mira is going to put the link. It was going to put the link in the chat box right now, so you can click in and book your ticket. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably do a tour, a day of touring the day before. We have some journalists all the way from the States who are coming down to experience that to experience that very special tasting. So it's pretty cool also that the world is watching. So it's really, 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 really cool. Yeah, so this is the big thing, June 15. So if you're wondering or if you're interested, shoot us a note. We can help you make your decision to join us for June 15 for 2.0, the Pan-Canadian Masterclass, hosted at Esther Creek. So just a few wines, okay? Some wines who have been confirmed. Esther Creek and Mark Hopley, the winemaker, has confirmed that they're going to feature the judge. So the Judge 2020 vintage will be featured. From Vineland Estate, we have the Boutique the Clone 327 Cabernet Franc. So yes, Mr. Cabernet Franc is bringing a single clone, single vineyard from Vineland Estate 2020 vintage. We also have confirmed, where did you have confirmed any other wines? The judge, no. So I'm working right now with all of these winemakers to set.
Is Bellaterra confirmed?
Bob Bellaterra, I mean,
not 100%, I guess.
Not about. We can spill the beads a little bit. And my idea is that I had the privilege to taste their non-released yet Cabernet Appassimento from the 2020 vintage. And when we go to a structured wine tasting, it's not unusual to finish the tasting with a port, with a cherry, with something a little bit bigger, bolder, and bigger than everything, right? I mean, the structure of the tasting leads you to the biggest wine available at the end. So I'm thinking that the Appassimento from Bellaterra, the 2020 vintage, would be a beautiful exclamation point for this memorable tasting. So we're still working on that, but that's an idea.
Really cool idea.
Oh, John Skinner this morning confirmed that he will feature the 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon from Painted Rock, who was my number 5 wine of the year on our lineup this year, 2023, a 95 points or 94 points Painted Rock. So it's a confirmation. We got that guy here. Boom. Painted Rock has been confirmed. Working with Richard De Silva right now, and with also Rob Hammersley. Rob at Black Market, we're thinking to maybe feature their estate Pinot Blanc. So that's the thing we're looking at right now. But one thing that I can tell you, everyone, I promise you that there's be one varietal who's going to be featured twice in that tasting. It goes against what I wanted to do, but no, it goes from what I believe. Chardonnay is the best grape varietal that we grow in Canada. And I will have 2 Chardonnay in that lineup. I made that decision.
Well, Chardonnay is, like Cab Franc, one of those leading varietals for Canada. I mean, it's one that we can make well on all sides of the country, both sides of the country.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And not just well, like very world-class well, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah. But don't forget, everyone, it's Clos du Soleil week here at Carl's Wine Club. We have a stunning lineup of Clos du Soleil. Let me review them. The 7 wines we have available this week from Clos du Soleil. Small estate from the Similkameen Valley, making old world wine with the Similkameen typicity. Absolutely outstanding lineup. We have a Pinot Gris, single vineyard Pinot Gris. We have single vineyard Chardonnay. I didn't even talk about the Chardonnay with Michael. Darn!
No!
I forgot. 91 points Chardonnay, single vineyard. Zippy, linear, super energetic, vibrant, It's the 12.8% alcohol Chardonnay. It's like walking on a tightrope, tasting that Chardonnay. It's really, really cool. Mineral is really, I really enjoyed. 91 points, single vineyard Chardonnay. Also the Fumé Blanc. So Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon blend with a little bit of barrel age in there, concrete fermented, pop. Super Sauvignon Blanc expressive, but roundness from the oak. Really, really cool. Well priced. I love $26. Super over deliver in that term. Like this is a silver medal. It's a Lieutenant Governor Award. It's a 91 plus point Carl's Wine Club. 92 points for someone else. I can't remember. But yeah, this is over deliver big time. And the red, so this is the 3 white. On the red side, we have the other value red is the Celestial. So I call it the baby signature. So that's Celestial, fun, modern, approachable, round, like super versatile with tons of different food. Also, this is a party animal. This is the party animal. I mean, for just under $30.
A party animal. I love it.
Absolutely. And we're going into the serious selection with the Winemaker Series Syrah, 91 plus points, 97% of the Syrah, 3% Viognier, co-fermented. That's Similkameen in a nutshell. Rugged, mineral, elegance, finesse, length, spice. That's Syrah. Yes, Vicky, I'm talking to you. If you're not on right now, you're going to listen to the show later. I know you love your Syrah. That's really good. Really, really good. One of my rockstar wine is the Expression. L'Expression, 60% Malbec, 20% Sauve, 20% Franc. Yeah, Malbec, Sauve, and Franc from the 2020 vintage. 114 cases made of that. If you're not a Clos du Soleil Wine Club member, you don't have access to that. And you won't have access no matter what very soon because there's barely nothing left of that. But we have the last bid on that to show Carl's Wine Club member across the country what we can do special. So this is Rockstar and real special. 93 points. Get a couple of those. It's good. Yes, and we go with the flagship wine as well. So this is the signature. I know people across some people from different part of the country who collect the Clos du Soleil signature. They have multiple vintage of that. This is a collectible. It's a $60 wine. This is a premium. Bordeaux varietals, a third for Merlot, Franc, and Sauve, and the last third, a fourth, like 30-something%, and a splash of Petit Verdot, a splash of Malbec at the end. So delicious signature. Gold medal, 93 points from Wine Align. This is the 2020 vintage. So if you want to collect a serious Bordeaux blend from the Similkameen, this is one of them. I mean, Clos du Soleil and Courcelette are two of the leading top producer of the Similkameen. So Talus and Signature are the two big dog in terms of Bordeaux blend from the Similkameen. And that Signature, I give it a 93 points. In my glass right now, this wine is so round, it's so soft. The texture is so silky and velvety. So yeah, so this is this week feature. Mira, if you have a second, maybe you can add the link for people.
I did earlier. I did.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you want to get a little something unique, get the L'Expression 2020 vintage Malbec Cab Sauv Cab Franc. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's for tonight. I mean, should I mention a little bit what we're going to do next week, Mira? Just to keep our wine.
Yes.
I mean, it's worth mentioning it. It's not consumer related, but it's more industry related.
So, but yeah, so it affects us. So you guys have heard about the cold events that happened the last few weeks in BC. A lot of members are worried about that, in the sense that we had 56 hours continuous at minus 18 or below throughout mainland, like Okanagan and Similkameen and North Okanagan. This
So
is
the key point is peaking at minus 28, though. I mean, minus 18 was the very, very low bar. I mean, there was much more than minus 18. So
at minus 18, there's bud damage, which can reduce the crop of grapes. At minus 22, 23, you can kill the vine. And we had several hours at minus 27, 28 throughout. But the real problem was when we spoke to researchers here near us at the Summerland Research Station, it was the prolonged exposures, 56 hours. They haven't seen that since possibly the 60s. There was a sort of similar incident in 1990. So these are very, hopefully, knock on wood, very rare events. Anyway, point being that there's going to be a lot of wineries that now for 2 years in a row are going to have low or almost possibly no crop at all, no grapes. And it's not just a certain region. For this last one, it could well be the whole of the Okanagan and Similkameen that will have like almost no grapes. So for a lot of wineries, this is not okay. Like they can't go for 1 or 2 years without any wine. You know, because the bills keep coming in for them. They've got these huge property bills and staff.
So to make a long story short, and thanks Mira for so eloquently bringing the reality to our members. I really appreciate the way you explain it. It's precise. It's well said. And but the reality is, like now, some of our producers are looking to go to Washington State and get some grapes or wine or juice to Washington State, bring them back, and make wines for under. They're licensed from Washington State. So our idea with some of our colleague in Ontario and the Ontario wine industry, we have some really close people that we work regularly with them. We got together, and so what I'm going to do next week, we're bringing 60, 70, I don't know exactly how many samples of wines from Ontario, just to taste with wineries who might think of, instead of going Washington route, the route of Washington State or the United States of America for sourcing grapes for the next couple of years, maybe that we can also keep it all Canadian, keep it local, keep it home here in Canada. Because I mentioned it earlier, we are in the golden age of the Canadian wine industry. We produce freaking world-class juice. And on the other side of the country in Ontario, they have supply. So I'm going to bring lots and lots and lots of different options for our Canadian producers so they can taste, just to change the perception, just to show our people here what our friends, what kind of wine our friends in Ontario can produce. And from there, can help maybe to make a better decision in terms of where to bring juice for the next vintage if they have to blend. And hopefully our governance, our people at the BCLDB, our people at the government will relax the license, and we can keep, instead of keeping 100% BC for the VQA, maybe for a certain period of time, that can be Canada only, so we can bring some grapes from and juice from Ontario, and makes it a decent crop for our producer. So, and there's some cool story. Can you imagine these amazing stories who can be made? Like Richard De Silva and Brian Schmid freaking making a 50-50% wine, and this is a cross-country wine. Marcel Morgenstern and Rob Amersley making a Cabernet Franc together. Like, can you imagine how freaking cool this can be? I understand it's not 100% BC grape, But you know what? Mother Nature decided that in 2024, it's going to be a very challenging year, followed by a really challenging 2023. So we have to make it happen. You either close shop or turn around and try to find a solution. So we truly try to find that made in Canada solution, that pan-Canadian. We've been using that term, Mira, for 3 years now. Pan-Canadian this, pan-Canadian that, pan-Canadian masterclass, bringing the country together. I mean, now that's the time. And yeah, so next week, with a colleague in Ontario, we're going to have bulk wines. Like I'm expecting at least 60 different style of Ontario wines, from Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnays, like
It makes
on
you want to
different styles.
go just to taste it, you know. I've had quite a few people say, can we come just to taste whatever is left over after the winemakers go through it? So yeah, it'll be an interesting experience, and I'm glad we're able to kind of connect the dots a little bit and help with that and give some options to these BC winemakers as they're making some tough choices, right?
I mean, that was Carl's Wine Club old goals, right? When we started Mira, to be connectors, right?
Daryl blames Danielle Smith for the weather. I mean, yeah, with the attitude she's had lately.
AGLC, that's the AGLC's fault. Fuck you.
I bet she didn't even know what was happening with that AGLC.
Well, no.
But this, like, look, this didn't start overnight. Like, we've been trying to do stuff like this. So there's 2 winemakers from across the country at our first Carl's Wine Club reunion holding each other's wine bottles. You know, there's Bellaterra holding a Black Market bottle from Caledon, BC. There's Rob at Black Market holding a Bellaterra bottle from Niagara. And that's when they first started saying, hey, we should do a cross-Canada blend. How cool would that be?
It was in 2021, Mira. Now we're 2024. And you know what? It's time. That's where we're at. And that's what we're pushing for.
And then there's this lovely group. They've been coming together, chatting about this, saying, how do we, for the Pan-Canadian Masterclass and all this. So it's happening, you guys. We got to find a way to break through some of these archaic rules and circumstances in the Canadian wine industry and make this a little more 21st century. What are we? Are we still 21st century? I feel like I missed a beat when it got to the year 2000, and yeah, it's 21st century, right? Yeah. 20th century was like 90s and 80s. Yeah. Anyway.
I think so. I think you're right. Anyway.
Cheers.
Hey, cheers to you guys. All of you across the country. Mira Boucher, Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. Until next time. Cheers.